Got it. All right. So we are recording. It is official now. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, I am here with the amazing, dynamic, profound Dr. Ryeal Sims. Like I said, all the way from California. All right. So I so appreciate you for joining me today. Want to say hi to the people? Y'all say hi to Dr. Ryeal, please. Send him all of your energy. All your energy. Look, it's 8 o'clock here. We're tired, and you're probably just getting going. So, all right. So, can you tell the people who you are, exactly where you're located, what it is that you do, so that they can know a little bit more about Dr. Ryeal?
Yes. I'm a neuropsychologist. I specialize in the neuroscience of why people do what they do in relationships from an eco-bio-psychosocial and spiritual point of view. And I also specialize in body language and mindfulness and behavior health and just all of that, just everything. And I just dissect the brain and what's going on in the brain when we're in relationships.
You just mess everybody up with knowledge. That's pretty much what you do.
Yes, yes.
And get them right. Mess them up and then put them back together.
And put them back together.
Yes,
just
awesome.
Like a regular brain.
Yes. That is awesome. How long have you been doing the work that you're doing?
For about 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so for those of you that don't know, Dr. Ryeal and I actually met on Facebook.
Yeah.
We met on Facebook. We've never met in person. We are both Prepare Enrich facilitators. And we love working with couples. And so when we connected, we actually ended up doing a live chat about relationships. And so from that, he has become my brother. And I only felt that it was the right thing to do is to have him on so that he could share with you about what it is that he does, but to help give you an idea of how to walk into 2020 doing something different. 2020 is about having a new vision. So go in there with more insight and being ready with tips that can really help you be effective in your relationships and how you see yourself using the brain, that brain that he's about to break down for us and then put back together.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you shared with me via email was that you wanted to be able to help people understand about the novelty of relationships and what that looks like, what goes into that. Can you talk a little bit about that? What novelty was?
I get a lot of questions about, how to enhance our relationship or a marriage or, how to keep it stable, how to keep it going, how to keep it fresh. And one of the things is novelty. And I think, sometimes we get into relationships and we get comfortable in that comfort zone. So we think that we don't have to do what we did when we first met. Right. Laughter, different things, going out and venturing and having a great time. And I think novelty is so important for couples to understand that it's what sparks certain parts of our brain to cause us to keep that chemistry, right? Because when we talk about chemistry is really real. And if we don't nourish that chemistry, it can actually die down. And that's how when people say, oh, well, we just fell out of love and everything. And that's because we're not really putting effort into our relationship, right? And just to speak on effort for a minute, a little off the subject, but
no, good.
People say, we fall in love. Falling in love actually doesn't take that much effort, right? Because it involves in a whole lot of different things like the chemicals, vasopressin, serotonin, phenylethylamine, oxytocin, testosterone. All of these different chemicals can cause us to actually fall in love, along with being compatible, or what I call the histocompatibility complex.
Mm-hmm.
But when we think about relationships and marriages and falling in love really, like I said, it doesn't take that much effort, right? Because of the chemistries and everything. But once we are in love, then we have to deal with true love. And true love is what takes effort. And you have to put effort in it. And novelty is one of the major keys to maintaining a vitalized, harmonious, cohesive working relationship.
Right.
Right. And one must have a capacious mind and not a vacuous mind, a closed mind, right?
Yeah.
And in order to venture into this this treatment to ourselves, to make sure that we have a happy relationship.
So you're talking about risk and vulnerability and having the courage, you know, for those of us who are like, those are a lot of words, Dr. Ryeal. Like I told you, your brain was going to go. So, so you're talking about having that courage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Having that courage and having the courage to go out to venture with as a couple and to do new things. You know, something that I learned about myself, you know, I would go to every time my wife and I would go to a restaurant, I would order the same thing. I would always order the same thing. And it was like, well, what does that say about me of not wanting to take the risk? Right. You know, and I'm just trying to be safe.
Right.
Right. Instead of doing something new and to enjoy the novelty of different types of food. Right. You know, and if it's not good, okay, I tried it. Right. Because that also says a lot about your life in general, about, you know, people who are trying to pursue things. Sometimes, you know, our lives are, we're stuck because we're afraid, right, to go out and to take that chance, right? And for instance, with novelty, the people who go to the mountains and jump off the mountains with the parachute on and everything, right?
I'm not doing that.
Right. But just before they do, they're on the mountain, right?
They're praying before they do.
And you say without the parachute.
Right.
And just before they do, they get this dopamine rush, this anticipation, right? And when they jump, then they get a surge of serotonin, right? And so this says, oh, wow, that made me feel so good. You know, I want to go back up and jump on the mountain again.
Right.
Well, what eventually happens is that they jumped so much. Well, exactly. Yeah. The testosterone goes down, the oxytocin level goes down, the vasopressin goes down, everything goes down. And so now you're saying, well, what do? You know, so what they do is they go out and they try to find another mountain, either higher, bigger, or something, you know, more adventurous, right?
Right.
And challenging.
Yeah.
And they usually always find joy when they find that new mountain. And that's what we have to do in relationships.
Wow.
And novelty is that we have to try different things and do different things. I mean, you know, sometimes you can just discover, like one time my wife couldn't go to sleep and I jumped in the bed and started doing this weird dance in the bed and spinning around. And she just laughed so hard. And of course I had to keep doing it because she was laughing. So I kept doing it. And she laughed so hard till after that she fell asleep.
She was exhausted.
She was exhausted. And she was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, that was but it was fun. It was different. And you can't be afraid because, I mean, think about it. That's me as a grown man standing on a bed doing weird dances, right?
Yeah.
But that's being vulnerable.
That's right.
And allowing yourself to be open to new things in your relationship, you know. Yeah, so novelty is the key. Just create different things. If you are constantly buying the same thing where it becomes common to her or him,
Right.
What's the other word? You know, when you predict it, when it's predictable,
Yeah.
right? You know, buy something different, buy something new, something that you've never bought before.
And as I listen to you, by the way, y'all, his wife is awesome. Hey, she is awesome.
Thank you.
And so I'm waving at her because I'm sure she'll watch this on the replay.
Right,
I'm not going to shout out her name because I don't know if she wants her name to be on the video. But one of the things you talked about is you're taking a risk, but then you mentioned something about the other person receiving it. So it's like you also have to be open to when your partner's taking the risk to try new things. Are you
Absolutely.
equally able to say, okay, wait, they're trying something. Let me be open and see what it is they're bringing to the table. Like she laughed at you. Your wife knew he doesn't do this, but for her, it was hilarious.
Yes.
That means that she also took the risk and was like, okay, this is different.
Yes.
And you helped her go to sleep.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And not only that, we have to realize too, when we're doing things for each other, we're actually helping them release those neurotransmitters. You know, so we're helping them release serotonin because when you do good for somebody, they release the serotonin.
That's right.
You know, and that's why it's really good. Like some people I know, they don't leave the house and kiss their significant other. They don't come home and kiss their significant other. I think it's a really good tip, a great tip. That's part of a novelty. It's different to you. It may be new to you, you know, but before you leave the house, kiss. Take a kiss and say, I love you before you leave. And that's very important too, because, you know, some people wish they did have that last kiss.
Right.
Because unfortunately, sometimes something happens. And that was the last time you saw your significant other.
Right. That's very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
And as you talk about, I think about me and my husband, kiss every morning, kiss when we get home, but we also hug for a long time.
Yes.
And so there are things that you definitely can keep as the same. And then there are also some things that you definitely want to create so that the novelty remains. You know,
That's
some
right.
people often try to knock down the novelty, but the novelty is important. You should be doing things that keep you feeling a certain way and connected.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
And keep you connected, you know, and you know you're connected when you realize how much you miss your significant other. You know, you just had a wonderful time yesterday, and you feel that like newness, right? Like, wow, you know, like I just met the person, you know.
Right.
And that's that chemistry. That's when we strike that chemistry that the mesolimbic dopaminergic part of our brain, the ventral tegmental area, the cardiac nucleus, the nucleus accumbens area, that area is our pleasure center of our brain. And you want to keep that pleasure center of the brain happy. You want to keep it active. You know, you want to keep it want more of your significant other. You know, and vice versa, right? So that's the part of the brain, the pleasure center part of the brain is you want to keep that active, you know, and that's how you keep it active, right? And even if your significant other is gone for work, and you could still smell the pheromones in the bed on the sheets, you know, and because the body yearns for your significant other, because you're constantly nourishing that novelty, you're constantly nourishing that chemistry, constantly nourishing that connection, that bond, that oneness. When we say we become one, right?
Absolutely.
You're constantly nourishing that oneness when you're adding that novelty to that relationship. And it's just so important, even if it's just, you know, new conversations, having great conversations, you know, sometimes when we say we spending quality time watching television, I would say that's 20% of quality time, because actually you're spending quality time with the television.
Right.
Right.
Not with the person.
Not with the person.
That you're in each other's space.
You're in each other's space.
But there is not quality in terms of the communication, how you're talking. Some people that may work, but if it's a habit of you're just sitting in silence, you're actually not exchanging any information or feelings or thoughts or,
that's
deep. Yeah.
No, that's deep, because what you said, sitting in silence, that's deep, because a story I have to tell. We lived in this apartment, right? And it was a couple next to us. And we thought that walls were, what is it called? That you can't hear people, right?
Right.
So when a new couple moved in, we could hear them all day. It was like, oh my God. Why is it that we can hear these people, but we couldn't hear the people who moved? It's because they spent their quality time just watching television in silence and not speaking to each other.
Wow.
And, I say this, if you are watching television and that's the quality time, the good thing about that is take out time to have a conversation about what you're watching on television.
Yeah.
And then take the remote control, pause it, and then get deep about the topic that you just saw on television, and get deep about that and have a deep conversation. Next thing you know, it's late, it's time to go to bed, and you can watch the program later, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Now we have quite a few people watching tonight, Dr. Ryeal. We have Marquita, our friend, Francis, one of my baby girls, Latoya, who else do we have here? Jamie Sledge, Heather Kennedy, the future doctor, Durana, my sis, Mr. Winston Cheney, and Miss Nicole Edwards, another clinician who is amazing. And so some of the comments that we have so far are: falling in love is easy. It's maintaining and growing in it that takes work. And then also vulnerability is so big and you have to be spontaneous always. And then Francis added last was, and still doing those things in the moment, even when you're in disagreement. So that novelty. So making sure you're trying to be spontaneous and taking that risk, even when you're not in sync. You can still be in sync when you're not in agreement, meaning that you're still connected. And you see that as a temporary situation, but you're still trying to connect even further with your mate.
Absolutely. That's totally awesome, because even when you're not in sync, it helps you get in sync. Right. And by the way, hey, family, Marquita and all of them, yes. But yeah, absolutely. Great comments. Yeah. Great comments, and I like the in sync, and because it's so important that even if you feel that you're not in, it's going to put you back in.
Exactly.
It's sometimes we lose, even like when we're riding a bicycle, and you lose your feet, and then you get back and you're back on track. And that's what's important, to just continue doing it, and you'll be right back on track. And the more you do it, what you do is you create a neural pathway. And neural pathways are the habit that we create, right? Yeah. And you create that habit when you create the A to B, that novelty from A to B, it may be just a little string at that time, right? The neural pathway. And then next thing you know, it becomes a highway, and it becomes
a thoroughfare.
And it's like this.
Yeah.
And it becomes second nature now.
Yeah.
It becomes second nature.
So you're talking about what I often break down in anger management, where some people initially function from that primitive part of the brain, and then they shift over to the evolved part of the brain, where they're retraining themselves to do something different. And like you said, before you know it, it's second nature. And so like you're awakening that whole frontal lobe. Yeah, y'all, I know a little bit of something about the brain.
Yes, you do.
A little bit.
Yes, you do.
But when you start to reprogram that frontal lobe, it starts to override the old stuff. so that you can
Yes.
do something different. Doesn't mean you don't remember it. You remember it.
Yes.
It's not hypnotism. You're retraining. And so that's what the power of habit is about. And it makes me think about the corner. What is that? Oh gosh. I cannot think of it. The keystone.
Yes.
The
Yes.
keystone. And when you have that piece in place, when it comes to habit, it begins to set the structure for everything else.
Whoa.
It stabilizes
Yes.
everything else.
Yes.
So when
Deep.
you make a choice, like Dr. Ryeal is saying, to change things up,
That's
and
right.
you commit to it, it's second nature, but it also stabilizes other areas of your relationship.
Whoa. And and my sister, and she's in the brain. Remind me of Marquita too. I remember one time I was talking to Marquita, and then she just jumped in and started talking about the brain too. I was like, hey, what do you know about it? I was like, oh, okay.
We know a
Family
little
is like,
something.
hey, they know a little, right?
A little
Yes.
something. But this is good information, because I think sometimes people think, I am who I am, or it is what it is. And what I'm hearing you say is that with all those names that we can't probably spell, but there are ways that your brain can start to help you produce different ways of acting or responding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you intentionally choose to do it.
You, you know, change has such a bad connotation attached to it.
Yeah.
But you have to realize in a relationship, or just as a human being, period, regardless whether we want to or not, we change.
That's right.
People who are listening to this right now, you're no longer the same as you were yesterday, right? Because our brain is plastic, right? And it's sucking information every day. So every place we go, it's looking and it's computing data, every day, all day.
Wow.
And change is okay. And we know that because President Obama became president with that. Right? He says change. But change has such a bad connotation. Remember back in the day, we say, oh, I ain't changing for nobody.
Right. I'm grown.
I ain't. But will you change? Will you change your behavior when you're going out trying to find a job?
Yes, you will.
It's not working.
Yes, absolutely.
You need to change, right? So it's the same tool in your relationship. And the thing is accepting too. Now, this is something really deep, because sometimes your significant other may change a little bit before you. And so now it's, can you accept that change and maybe come up and change too? Right? Because change is okay. It's all right. It was a couple, and I'm just paraphrasing the couple. I'm not exactly sure, but they were on drugs. And one day she just happened to turn the television on, and she saw a gospel station. And that day on, she said, no more drugs. And I think she became a gospel singer.
Are you talking about Helen Baylor?
Hey, I don't know, because I don't want to say it wrong.
I think you're referring to Helen Baylor.
Right? And then her husband changed and said, and look at the power of love.
Yeah.
It's more powerful than we think, because you would think you're on drugs, right? And that's just too powerful to let go.
Right.
And that when she changed, he's still on drugs, that he wouldn't change, right? But he did.
He did.
He did. And it's okay, right? At least if it's for the better, right? And it's for our significant other to notice and to recognize the change and to respect the change, right?
Yeah, I know we only have like 5 minutes left. This is so good. As you were talking, I think about scenarios, and I'm glad you said what you said about Helen Baylor and her husband, because sometimes for couples, when they start seeing the person change, they start to respond in a negative way out of fear that that person's going to grow and leave them. Like they're at risk of losing their relationship because things are going to start changing and they're not ready to change with them. And so the goal is, again, this is about taking that risk. So we're talking
right.
about the novelty. This is part of that as well, where you're saying, I want to keep up and I want to be responsive.
Yes.
They're doing well. Let me support them, because this is also building our relationship. Like, don't be afraid to go with them on that journey. Who
That's
knows?
deep.
You start moving forward too, and then they can support you. But don't be afraid of watching them grow beyond whatever that struggle is.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow. That's deep. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
It happens a
Absolutely.
lot, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one last thing, I know we only have a few minutes, is communication.
Yes.
Communication, we talked about the talking and everything, but when you
Mm-hmm.
also communicate, and I think I'm piggybacking on Dr. Candace,
Mm-hmm.
when she was talking about
Yes.
communication, comprehending the communication, understanding the communication.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key, because when we say the key to a relationship is communication, well, what we have to just say what we really mean when we say the key is communication, because if the key is only communication, then we would all be in a wonderful relationship, right?
Yeah.
But the key is understanding the communication, because we all communicate, right? We slam, throw stuff at each other, even nonverbal communication. But the key to communication is understanding it. Wow. Getting that understanding from your partner and making sure that you understand what that person is putting in their complaint, understand their complaint, right? And mirroring their complaint and having that understanding. And you know what? That's part of novelty too, because when you create that, because the brain is plasticity, when you create that, and that what happens is that you get the reward of actually listening to your significant other and being able to say, I understand, and being able to say, wow, that's deep. Yeah, you're right.
But here's the deal. And this is a challenge for anyone who's dating. Turn that representative into a real person.
Yes.
The level of attention and intention that you give to a person when you're first meeting them, make that a real person, because I'm sure you're genuine when you're asking these questions. Allow yourself to evolve into that person. Don't stop. Keep doing that.
That's right.
Let it be a real person. I always tell them, everybody shows up with a representative in the beginning because they want to impress.
Yes.
And you genuinely want to know because you're trying to connect, or you're doing it because you're nervous and you want them to like you. But let the representative become a real person.
Yes.
Let it be a new way of doing things so that you
like
can
that.
learn.
I'm gonna have to use that.
Go ahead. You can borrow that.
Representative become the real person.
Yep. Just
that
give me
so
credit.
True. That is so true. Yeah, because we definitely put our best foot forward, and because we're trying to get the job, right?
Exactly.
And that's one of my messages to women, that you're the employer, and us men, we're interested in trying to get the job.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
Yeah, the power lies in your hand. You're the one who's the last result is the last decision is in your hands to be the chooser. You decide. You say, okay, I want that person. Yes, that's fine. You're hired.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ryeal.
You are welcome.
Awesome.
Hey,
I hope y'all got
just
this.
love what you're doing, and continue doing it. This is
Thank
so
you, bro.
important. It's so necessary.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you always for the encouragement from the very beginning. You've like, sis, do this.
Yes.
And so, as you can see, I'm doing this for 31 days.
Yes.
So
I can't believe it. I mean, one time you was like, oh no, I got to jump too far.
No, and I'm still doing that. No.
Now you're awesome. You're doing your thing, and I'm so proud of you.
I keep telling y'all, I'm like Beyonce, this is Sasha Fierce. I'm just a whole nother alter ego going on. But I appreciate you. If you can, before you leave us, can you please tell the people how to connect with you on social media or your website, and some things that may be upcoming for you?
Yeah. Actually, I am coming up with something in March where I'm actually going to try to get a better understanding for therapists, psychologists, coaches, why men jump straight to the fix-it mode and why women wants to just be heard. And what do we tell couples when we're counseling them when that is an issue? And I want to help with the science of it as to why the male goes straight to the fix-it mode and why the woman goes straight to, I just want you to listen, and to come together in the medium and to actually have a different approach to tell our clients where they can understand a lot better from a science point of view.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can check me out on Facebook, The Relationship Scientist, Dr. Ryeal Sims. I have another page, Dr. Ryeal Sims, Relationship Scientist. Right now, they are redoing my website, so I don't know if it's still up yet, drryeal.com. And yeah, and that's it.
Awesome. I'm actually putting all that in here so that they can find you, because that is important. Got it. All right, you all, please continue to post your questions and comments. Dr. Ryeal is a part of this thread, so he can chime in later. He always does that, and will answer any questions that you may have or give feedback on any comments that you made. And so thank you for joining us for day 6.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And I again, I appreciate you. And until next time.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.